Hi there, I'm Shruti Ramanujam and I'm from the Exchange Reporter Plus team of Manage Engine. Thank you very much for registering and for attending today's workshop. It means a lot to us here at Manage Engine since you've obviously taken time out of your busy schedule in order to attend our workshops. So yeah, thanks so much for taking the time to attend this workshop. So this session will be all about reporting on Exchange components. Three main components in fact. They are Outlook Web Access or OWA, ActiveSync and Exchange email traffic. So in this session, in the next half an hour to 45 minutes, we are going to see how you can use Exchange Reporter Plus in order to report on these three components. And before we get into the topics for today, please have in mind one thing. It's that if you have any questions, you can definitely ask us because we have our support team waiting right here in order to solve any of your queries. So you can use the chat box that you see on your screen in order to ask us the questions. So if you have any questions, if you need to know something, just key in your question, send it, and we will get back to you immediately. And this is a workshop series for those of you who are new to this particular workshop. We had three workshops previously before this. This is a workshop series comprising of 5 workshops, of which 3 are done. And in today's workshop, we are not going to be calling back to any of the topics that we saw in the previous 3 workshops. So if you are a new attendee, if you did not attend the previous workshops of this workshop series, you do not have to worry because I am not going to call back to anything that we saw in the previous 3 workshops. But for the people who have been attending, let me quickly summarize within a few seconds what exactly we saw in the previous 3 workshops of this workshop series in order to jog your memory a little. So in the past 3 workshops, we saw how you can report on every part of your Exchange organization. We saw how you can audit mailbox permissions, how you can track changes to the properties of mailboxes, changes to Exchange databases. We saw how you can report on storage components such as your mailboxes, mailbox databases, public folder databases, and so on. We saw how you can monitor an entire Exchange environment, and to do this, we used all the monitoring reports of Exchange Reporter Plus. So these were the 3 things that we saw in the previous workshop. We saw a little about reporting. We covered auditing fully in one particular workshop. And in another workshop, we looked about monitoring. So we saw a little bit of reporting, all of auditing, and all of monitoring. So today's workshop is once again going to be about the reports tab of Exchange Reporter Plus. So we saw just a few reports inside the reports tab in the very first workshop of this series, and in today's workshop we will be looking at all the reports specific to Outlook Web Access, ActiveSync and email traffic. So before we look at the tasks for today, let me quickly show you the product. Let me log into the product. So this is the URL that I will be using, and the URL is admp.cloudapp.net : the port number, which is 8181. So this is just a lab setup and it's hosted on Azure. So if you wish to play around with any of the features along with me as I go through the tasks, you can do so. So the URL is admp.cloudapp.net : 8181, and I will also be sending you the link over chat in a short while. My support team will be sending it to you so that you can use the link in order to log into the product if you are interested. So that's how this is going to go. And the credentials to log in will be admin as both the username and the password. These are going to be auto-filled, so you have nothing to worry about. So let me log into the product so that you can also log in along with me. And I'll also give you a minute. Right. So this is the product. For those of you who did not attend any of the previous workshops, there's nothing to worry about once again because I'm not going to be calling back to any of the features. But anyway, this is our product. So the very first tab is going to show you the dashboard. And this dashboard just has like representations, graphical representations about several critical components in your Exchange organization. And Exchange Reporter Plus has three main tabs called reporting, auditing, and monitoring. So in the previous three workshops, we saw all about auditing, we saw all about monitoring, and we saw a little bit under the reports tab. And in today's workshop, which is about Outlook Web Access, ActiveSync, and email traffic, so we are going to be looking at reports specific to these three main components. So this is the product, and most of the tasks, all of the tasks that we will be performing today will be done within the reports tab. So I've clicked on it. So yeah, all we've done with is the introduction. So without further ado, let's look at the agenda for today's workshop. So these are all the tasks that we will be performing today. The very first task is about OWA, and more specifically, it's about logons to OWA. So it involves logon specifics, and we are going to look at reasons for failure of logon. So when I say logon specifics, I mean that you can use Exchange Reporter Plus in order to track OWA logons based on the servers, or you can track OWA logons based on the IP addresses, and so on. And you can also track failure of logons using Exchange Reporter Plus. So, and you can also see the reasons for why logon failure happened. And then the next task is about the mobile devices in your organization, and it's about the ActiveSync enabled mobile devices in your organization. And there's a particular report in Exchange Reporter Plus which gives you complete details about the ActiveSync enabled mobile devices in your organization. Next, we will be seeing how you can identify the inactive ActiveSync enabled mobile devices in your organization. We will be seeing how you can get various statistics related to email traffic, such as information about messages that are being sent and received in your organization. Information such as the number of the messages and the size of the messages. The next task will be about all the messages that were not delivered in your organization. So we are going to see the count of messages that were not delivered. We are going to compare the messages that were not delivered with the messages that were delivered. And then we will be looking at the reasons for delivery failure. So just a whole lot of subtasks within this task about all the emails that were not delivered in your organization. And then the most important task of all of the tasks that we are performing today, we will be seeing how you can use Exchange Reporter Plus in order to track the email response time. So we will be looking at how you can use this product. If you are a customer-facing company, this is going to be very important to you. So you can use Exchange Reporter Plus in order to see how long it took the people in your organization, the customer-facing teams in your organization, to reply to customers. So if an agent receives an email, you can use this report to see how long it took him to reply to that particular email. And then finally, we will be seeing how you can monitor email traffic based on internet users, how you can identify the top internet users in your organization. So these are all the tasks that we are going to be looking at today, and I've already logged into the product, and you have also received the URL to log into the product if you're interested over chat. So without further ado, let's move on to the tasks and let's look at the very first task for today so that we can perform it using Exchange Reporter Plus. So the very first task is about OWA logons. So Outlook Web Access is a very important part of Exchange administration. So OWA is an integral part of our work environment, obviously. So if our employees have Outlook Web Access with them, they no longer have to be stuck to their desktops because of Microsoft Outlook. So if you have employees who travel frequently as part of the job, they have Outlook Web Access, OWA. So using this, they can access their mailboxes through their web browsers. They just need an internet connection. So this makes things so much easier for all the employees who need to travel in our organizations, right? However, there is a problem when it comes to Outlook Web Access. So obviously it is an advantage that our employees can access mailboxes easily now, but the new problem is all the security challenges that can occur. We now need to keep track of who exactly accessed emails on our organization's Exchange servers. So this is taken care of by Exchange Reporter Plus, and that's why we are looking at this particular task for today. So if you think of Outlook Web Access and Outlook Web Access Logon specifically, Exchange Reporter Plus classifies OWA logons based on a number of entities. So you can track OWA logons based on the server, you can track OWA logons based on the client IP addresses or based on the browsers and so on. So that's the first half of this task for the day. So server-based logons. And why would you need to do that? You need server-based logons in order to optimize the performance of servers that host your Outlook emails. Also, you need to work out a way to avoid like unnecessary clutter in the traffic for an Exchange server. And you need all of this so that the functioning of OWA is smooth. So that's one reason. And then when you are tracking IP addresses, OWA logons based on IP addresses, you would do that to make sure that your Exchange environment is secure. So if any malicious activity takes place, you need to be ready in order to track exactly what the problem is. And if all of this suspicious activity emerges from one particular unknown IP address, it's obviously a problem. So sometimes the question you would raise here is that it could be a person from your organization who's working from home. Yes, that is a possibility, but there's also the possibility that there is someone who is causing some malicious activity in your organization, and this is someone who is not an employee. This is someone who is not a part of the payroll in your organization. So these are all the security risks that come into play here. So this is why you need Exchange Reporter Plus by your side. I'm going to switch to the product screen and show you how exactly you can track OWA logons using Exchange Reporter Plus. So this is the Reports tab, and if you look at the left pane, there are a number of different categories to the Reporting tab of Exchange Reporter Plus. And the category that we are looking for is obviously OWA and ActiveSync. Let me click on that, and these are all the reports that we have available under this category. And there are two main things that we are going to look at today because these were the two reports that I mentioned just a few seconds back. So the very first report that we are going to look at is server-based logon. This is because you need to optimize server performance. You need to know where the logons are originating from. So you need this report by your side. This report is very simple. So you just need to click on the report and it's going to list out the names of the servers and it's going to list out the logon count, the number of logons originating from these servers. So keep in mind that this is just a lab setup. We just have this hosted on Azure for us to play around with in order to understand the features of Exchange Reporter Plus more. So that's why we have just a single server here. But obviously, I know that you can understand how important a report like this would be in a real organization. In the real life scenario, this would be a very important report. It lists out the logon counts from each servers, and it also shows you the top 10 servers based on the logon count in graphical format at the top of the screen. So not only do you have a huge report, you also have an easy to understand graph at the top of the screen with which you get a picture about the logon counts originating from the servers in your organization. So the next report that we are going to look at is the client IP based logon report. And the use case that I mentioned here that everyone usually finds helpful about this report is this. So you could have malicious activity originating from an unknown IP address, and if there are a number of logons originating from one unknown IP address, it's obviously a problem. You can dig a little deeper in order to find out what the problem is. So that's how this report is going to help you out. It shows you the name of the client IP address. It shows you the client IP address, and it shows you the logon count originating from this particular IP address. In addition to this, it also has a graph at the top of the screen which shows you the top client IP addresses based on the logon count. So that's how this report helps you out. And with a detailed report such as this, which gives you information about the client IP based logon, you can take up further analysis and see what should be done about this particular situation. So that's how this works. The second half of the first task for the day is this. You need to find the reasons for logon failure. So picture this. You may be spending your usual day, you're doing your routine at your job, at work, and suddenly you have a problem. Your users, they could be saying that they are not able to access their mailboxes through OWA, through Outlook Web Access. They may have a few unsuccessful attempts before they successfully log in. So in order to find out what the problem is, you need to go look through the logs. And let's face it, it's going to take a lot of time for you. As it is, there is going to be a lot of work for administrators to do. And do we really need to look through the logs to figure out what exactly went wrong in our organization? True. So I'm here to say that there is an easier solution for you. And since this is the workshop for Exchange Reporter Plus, obviously the answer is Exchange Reporter Plus. So Exchange Reporter Plus has this particular report called the Logon Failure Report, which lets you track the details about logon failure when it comes to Outlook Web Access. You can also find the reasons for logon failure. So in order to show you how you can do that, I'm going to switch to the product screen, and you can see the report right here on the left pane. I'm pointing to it with my cursor. The name of the report is Logon Failure, and I've clicked on it right now so that we can take a look at this report and see how exactly it helps us find out the details for logon failure to Outlook Web Access. So these are all the information that this report shows. It shows you the name of the user, the username. It shows you the date at which this happened, the logon failure happened. It shows you the client IP address, the error, a description, a brief description of the error is shown right here. The problem is that logon failure occurred because of the unknown username or bad password. It also shows you the name of the browser. It shows you the browser version, the server name, the client port, the request URL. It shows you the application pool, the HTTP status code, and so on. So all this information is displayed here. Look at the sheer number of columns that Exchange Reporter Plus has. It gives you complete details about logon failure. Not only does it tell you for which user logon failure happened, it also shows you complete details about this user, such as the client IP address, the browser version, the client port, and so on. And it also shows you the logon failure reasons. It shows you the description of the error, and you get a clear picture about what exactly went wrong. So you can easily find out if someone suspicious is trying to log on to your user accounts using the site, or it could be just user error. So whatever it is, you just need to access this report in order to get full details about logon failure, and that's it. Comprehensive information can be obtained using Exchange Reporter Plus. So this is what we saw in the first task for today. We've seen how you can track OWA logons based on the servers and based on the client IP addresses using Exchange Reporter Plus. And we saw how you can track logon failure and find out the reasons for logon failure, find out the reasons why an error occurred. You can see information about the errors, and Exchange Reporter Plus is very helpful in that way. Let's move on to the next task for the day. In the next task, we are going to find out the number of mobile devices in your organization, in your environment, and we are also going to find out details about these ActiveSync enabled mobile devices, information such as the operating system of these mobile devices. So let's move on. What is this task all about? Exchange Reporter Plus offers several ActiveSync reports, and these reports will help you get down to the specifics of ActiveSync usage in your organization. So usually, when you need to find out information about ActiveSync enabled devices, what do? You usually take PowerShell. You need to script on PowerShell in order to get all the information that you need about the ActiveSync enabled mobile devices in your organization. And really, do you really want to spend your time on complex PowerShell scripts when I can offer you an easier solution here? So Exchange Reporter Plus, as I mentioned, offers several ActiveSync reports, and no matter what your problem is, you can find the solution using a particular report of Exchange Reporter Plus. So to start off, let's take this task. And one particular use case that one of our customers mentioned needs to be mentioned right here. So they ran into this problem once. So say, let's just adapt it according to our needs. So say you need to pull up a list of all the mobile device users in your organization who use their mobiles in order to connect to their mailboxes. So this happens sometimes. You may need to alert some of these users about updating their operating system. Why? Because their current operating system may have problems syncing with Exchange, and this would obviously cause performance issues for your users. So you want them to update immediately in order to avoid problems. But bringing up a list of users no longer has to be a tiring job, because let's face it, if you use PowerShell in order to do this, it's going to be a pretty difficult task. And in order to avoid this, you can use a report of Exchange Reporter Plus called the ActiveSync Device Details Report. So let me switch to the product screen to show you how you can do this. Once again, take a look at the left pane. We are still at the OWA and ActiveSync category, and the subcategory that we are looking for is ActiveSync General Reports. The name of the report is ActiveSync Device Details. And as the name indicates, this report is going to show you complete details about all the ActiveSync enabled mobile devices in your organization. So take a look at this report. It shows you the name of the device. It shows you the type of the device, when the first sync happened for this device, the time at which the first sync happened, the username, the IMEI number of the device, the operating system, when the last successful sync was, and when the last sync was attempted using this particular mobile device. So do you see how easy it would be to use this particular report? It gives you complete details about the ActiveSync enabled devices in your organization. And if you need to, like the scenario that I mentioned earlier was that you need to warn users about updating their operating system. So you need to pull up a report about the device details for all the ActiveSync enabled mobile device users in your organization. And so putting this together, putting the report together with the use case I mentioned, this is what you need to do. You just need to take a look at the report. By seeing the name of the device and the operating system of the device, you can now easily warn your users about any updates or upgrades that they need to perform to their device. So as you can see, this is a pretty advantageous option to have by your side. So this is how you can report on all the devices in your organization. And this report doesn't stop here. As you can see here, there are two other tabs called Device Summary and Users Device Summary. So let's click on Device Summary. It shows you the type of the device, and it shows you the total count, that is the number of logons that happened from this particular ActiveSync device. There's another tab called the user's device summary, which shows you the device count based on the name of the mailbox. So when you want a summary about the device count based on mailboxes, you need to click on user's device summary. When you want a summary of the number of devices, this was number of devices, not logons, I misspoke. So if you want a summary about the number of devices based on the type of device, you should use the device summary tab. And for comprehensive information, obviously you would use the very first tab called ActiveSync devices, which shows you complete details about all the ActiveSync enabled mobile devices in your organization. So that's how this works. So in this particular task, we've seen how exactly you can identify the mobile devices in your organization, how exactly you can find out details about the mobile devices in your organization. Let's look at the next task for the day. So the next task is about this. We are going to see how you can get a list of all the inactive ActiveSync devices in your organization. So mobile devices are very popular right now, right? So this is no understatement. Obviously, mobile devices are used in a widespread manner all over the world. And long gone are those days when only a select few people had your cellular phones. And right now, everyone has a mobile device. Everyone. And when I say everyone, I actually mean everyone. And each time a newer model comes out, we ditch the old one. We want the newer version. I want the latest iPhone all the time. So what happens when this takes place in your organization? What about the users who have all these mobiles on ActiveSync device partnerships? These are all people who, like yours truly, have been buying new versions of mobiles as they come up. They want the latest mobile in their hands. And all the mobiles that they have used during their tenure at your company have been put on ActiveSync device partnerships. So this is obviously a problem, and you need to clean up these stale ActiveSync devices. And obviously, these users can clean up their inactive devices by themselves by using Outlook Web. Funnily enough, they don't, and it falls on our shoulders in order to find out all the stale ActiveSync devices in our organization, and we need to remove them. And usually, using the native tools, using PowerShell is how we remove the stale devices. And this is a pretty boring job. There, I said it. So it increases the complexity. Removing device partnerships is fine, but it is a mind-numbing activity. And the easier solution would be to just generate a report using Exchange Reporter Plus. It lists out all the inactive ActiveSync devices for you in a very clear-cut format, and that's it. It's going to be clear, it's going to be easy, and it takes less than a minute. And I'm going to show you how you can do this. So I've switched to the product screen. The name of the report is obviously Inactive ActiveSync Devices. I'm pointing to it, and now I'm clicking on it. So when you want to discover all the stale devices in your organization, you just need to click on this report because it shows you the name of the device, it shows you the username, it shows you when the last successful sync was, and it shows you when the last sync was attempted. Very easy, isn't it? You just need to set the inactive period here, click go, and it lists out all the devices that have been inactive over the period listed here in this particular bar, in this particular space in which the inactive period can be filled in. So using this information, you can decide what you want to do with all the inactive stale devices in your organization. So that's how Exchange Reporter Plus helps you out in cleaning all the stale devices in your organization. So you have this information now that you know which devices are inactive. You can go ahead and clean up all the stale devices. You can clean up all the device partnerships that have gone stale in your organization. Let's move on to the next task for the day. Get statistics on the number and the size of all messages that were sent and received in your organization. So if you are keeping an eye on the forum for our Exchange Reporter Plus, um, a post about this will be coming up today, which will be going into detail about this task. But obviously, I'm also going to be talking about it in this particular workshop. So this is about email traffic. From this task, the next few reports, the next few tasks that we are going to be performing in today's workshop will be all about email traffic. And this one is about mailbox traffic. So keeping a tab on the mailbox activities, the mailing activities of your users and tracking their message traffic is a very important job. I'm sure you'll agree because you need to be vigilant about the mailing activities of your employees and you need to be vigilant about message traffic. And you can track and analyze traffic using the reports of Exchange Reporter Plus. And this particular task is about 4 reports of Exchange Reporter Plus, and they are all about the number and the size of messages that were sent and received by the users in your organization. And there are 2 main use cases that I would like to mention here. The very first use case is this. So there may be times when even under normal circumstances, one server might be handling more load than the other servers. So in such cases, the data gathered from the traffic reports of Exchange Reporter Plus will be helpful because if a particular server is handling more load than the other servers, it's going to cause performance issues. It's going to cause issues like slow logons, email delays, and other performance issues. And this is not something that is very desirable. So having the mailbox traffic reports by your side is going to help you out a lot in balancing the server loads. It ensures smoother operation of your Exchange environment, and they can also be helpful in monitoring the Exchange server performance. You can plan future capacity easily using Exchange Reporter Plus. Another use case that I would like to mention here is this. So keeping an eye on mailbox traffic is important for you to identify spamming activity. How? Let me explain it further. An abnormally high mailing activity either originating from or going to a particular exchange user's mailbox is an obvious sign of some malicious activity. So if an average Joe is suddenly receiving a large number of email messages, it could be an indication of spamming activity. Poor Joe is receiving so many email messages, and this is an obvious indication of spamming activity. So you can dig deeper in order to find out what the problem is. In some rare cases, this might be intentional. Maybe the user Joe is receiving important email messages and they are not spam. So this could be a rare case, but mostly this is a malware that works behind these issues. And using the data gathered from Exchange Reporter Plus, you as an administrator can get alerted at the right time and you can take the necessary steps that need to be taken. So I've given you 2 use cases here. Let's take a look at the report since we've already spoken about it so much. So the category that we are looking for is email traffic. So you just need to hover your mouse over this particular category. It's present in the top tab right underneath the reports, audit monitoring, and all of those tabs. So let's click on email traffic. And one thing that you need to notice here is the sheer number of reports that we have available under email traffic. And the most important thing that you need to note about Exchange Reporter Plus is this. All these reports, every single report available under email traffic is real time. So every report here is real time. If something happens today, that is going to be reported by Exchange Reporter Plus immediately. So under the period option that you can set for every single report, there is an option called today. So you can view information, you can view mailbox traffic information for today too. And I'm going to show you how you can do that. So I was speaking about 4 reports, and since this report is about the mailing activities of users, these are the 4 reports that we are going to look at. Number of messages by sender, size of messages by sender, the number of messages by receiver, and the size of messages by receiver. So one thing you need to know about Exchange Reporter Plus is this. Every report that we talk about is very straightforward. So the name of the report is very straightforward. As you can see, if you want to track the size of messages that the employees in your organization have been sending, you just need to use the size of messages by sender report. So as the name indicates, all four of these reports are going to have information exactly pertaining to their names, as in the name indicates exactly what the reports are going to contain. So let's just take a look at one of these reports so that you get an idea about how exactly this works. So let's look at the very first report, number of messages by sender. So as the name indicates, this report is going to let me track the messages in my organization. So I can see the mailing activity of the employees in my organization based on the messages that they have sent, based on the number of messages that they have sent. So firstly, let's take a look at the report. The report shows me the mailbox display name. It shows me the number of messages that have been sent. It shows me since the number is shown here, it shows me how many of these messages were internal within the organization. It shows me how many of these messages were sent to external domains. And then there is the last column, actual number of messages sent. And what do you think that means? If you look at number of messages sent, it's also going to include duplicates. So when I say duplicates, I mean the messages that were also in CC. So you don't want the carbon copy messages to be listed out under the number of messages sent. So if you want to avoid that, you can use the last column, which excludes the duplicates, and it just shows you the actual number of messages that were sent by this particular mailbox user. So that's how this report works. So whenever you want any information about the mailboxes and the mailing activity of the users in your organization, you can use these reports. So all of these reports are going to be similar. Since we saw a report about the number of messages, let's see another report about the size of messages. And this report is going to show you the mailing activity of all the employees in your organization based on the messages that they received and based on the sizes of these messages. So you can see the display name of the mailbox, you can see the size of the messages received, and you can see the size of all the internal messages and the size of all the external messages. And this information, this report would obviously be very huge for a real organization. Imagine if you used Exchange Reporter Plus in your organization, this report is going to be very huge. And if you wish to track the top recipients, you just need to look at this graph. So all the information in the report is summarized in graphical format at the top of the screen. So you can see the top recipients by size at the top of the screen, and these top users are shown based on the size of the messages that they received. So using this report, you can be super vigilant about mailbox traffic on both ends of Exchange email communication. So that's how this task goes. So this is how you can track email traffic based on the number and the size of messages that were exchanged in your organization. This is the next task for the day. Just take a look at it for a minute. It's about messages that were not delivered in your organization. Right. So we've seen all about email traffic. We've seen reports about messages that were sent and received. But I use it fast and loose. What about the messages that were not delivered in the organization? Because this is something that actually happens. You don't just click send and the messages aren't exactly received immediately. So this is obviously a problem because some messages are obviously not going to be delivered. And there are a number of reasons why these messages are not being delivered. It could be due to a problem with size. It could be a problem with invalid email addresses. It could be any problem really. But obviously in any organization in the real-time scenario, obviously messages are going to be undelivered. They are not going to be delivered to their intended recipients. So this is obviously going to mess up communications for your users. And obviously, your users are the king, the customer is the king, and you don't want them to face any problems. You don't want your end users to have any customer issues, any communication issues, actually. So in order to check out on all the messages that were not delivered in your organization, Exchange Reporter Plus offers a whole category of reports. Let me switch to the product screen. So this is email traffic. The left pane lists out all the categories, subcategories that email traffic has. And the subcategory that we are looking for is called non-delivery reports. Let me click on non-delivery and we are going to look at these 4 reports. So when you want details about messages that were not delivered, you use the undelivered emails report. When you want details about specific reasons for email delivery failure, you can use these 2 reports, emails to invalid addresses and failure due to size. And finally, you can compare all the messages that were delivered with all the messages that were not delivered using the last report, delivered versus undelivered report. So let's take a look at the very first report, undelivered emails. So when you want detailed information about all the emails that went undelivered in your organization, you can use this report. It shows you the sender's email address, it shows you the recipient's email address, it shows you the subject of the message, the size of the message, the reason for why the message was not delivered, and the possible causes. So under reason, it lists out any reason such as the message was too big for the system, the mailbox was full, there was a bad destination address, or it was an invalid address, or the size was an issue, and so on. And then there's another column called possible causes. Keep in mind that these are not the actual causes, this is just the possible causes. So if you hover your mouse over the more button, it shows you the possible cause. And for the very first row, the possible cause could be that the mailbox has exceeded its storage quota and it is no longer able to accept new messages. So reasons such as this. So all of this is listed out in a clear format and you just need to take a look at the report and you have a clear picture about the problems that take place due to email delivery failure. There are 2 more reports which are reports specific to non-delivery due to the reasons for non-delivery in fact. So there's emails to invalid addresses and there's failure due to size. So let's first look at emails to invalid addresses. So this report, emails to invalid addresses, is obviously going to list out details about all the emails that were not delivered because they were sent to invalid addresses. So if you look at the report, it lists out information such as the sender's email address, it shows you the recipient's email address, the subject of the message, the size of the message, the reason for failure of the message being delivered, and the possible causes. So it lists out all the possible causes. Obviously, there are 3 possible causes in here. Just hover your mouse in order to get this tooltip information and you get an idea about the messages that were not delivered in your organization because they were sent to invalid addresses. For messages who weren't delivered because of size issues, you can use the failure due to size report. And this report is obviously going to list out details about email messages that were not delivered because of size. Size was the issue. The message could be too big for the system and this report lists out information about it. So this report shows you the sender's email address, it shows you the recipient's email address, it shows you the subject of the message, the size of the message, the reason such as whether the mailbox was full, whether the message was too big for the system or so on, and it lists out the possible causes. So these are all the reasons for email delivery failure and this report lists it out for you. And finally, there is a report called the delivered versus the undelivered report, which compares all the messages that were delivered with all the messages that were not delivered. It just shows you the number of the messages. It shows you the number of messages that were delivered and the number of the messages that were not delivered. And this is also summarized in graphical format at the top of the screen. As you can see, green is the number of messages that were delivered and yellow is the number of messages that were not delivered. And obviously, you should always be rooting for green. You should always be rooting for green. You want green to win because if this portion is larger, it obviously means that you have some issues. You don't want the majority of messages that you send to be undelivered. You don't want them to not reach their intended recipients, which is why you should always root for green. So this is how you can compare all the messages that were delivered with all the messages that were not delivered in your organization. So in this task, we've seen all about messages that were not delivered to their intended recipients. We saw how you can track the messages that were not delivered, view information about details about the messages that were not delivered. We saw specific reports due to about emails that failed due to specific reasons. And finally, we compared the delivered versus the undelivered reports. There are 2 tasks left and that will be the end of the session once we are done. And this task, as I mentioned initially when we first started this session, this is a very important task. So I need you to listen closely, especially if you are a customer facing employee or if you have customer facing teams in your organization. This task is very important for you. So stay tuned. This is about email response time. And why is this important? Customer facing teams would know this issue. So what organizations do is this. They declare on their website that they have a service level agreement about email response. They say that they have an email response SLA of say 3 hours. So how this would work is this. If you belong to an organization called ABC Corporation, your website is going to say ABC Corporation cares very much about its customers and we will be replying to all the emails within 3 hours. We have an email response time of 3 hours, and if you are a customer and if you are reaching out to us, our company is going to respond to you and fix your issues in 3 hours. So this is declared on the site. And then when it comes to the customer facing teams, they are going to have obvious problems because they are going to receive a number of emails. They need to adhere to this email response SLA, and that's going to be a problem. So sometimes you may be asked to keep an eye on the response times. So you need to see if these customer facing teams in your organization are responding to emails properly. You need to know that the agent is responding to the email. You need to know that they are adhering to the email response SLA, and you need to know that the average time that they take in order to close all the tickets that they have available, the average time that they take to reply to all the messages that they received. And to do all of this, you can use Exchange Reporter Plus, and this is a very important task. So keep your eyes glued to the screen and I will show you how exactly you can do this. So let me click on the reports tab because obviously like every other report that we discussed today, this report is also available under the reports tab. And if you look at the bottom of the left pane, there's a separate portion called the custom reports. This is a custom report. Exchange Reporter Plus has a number of reports available called the custom reports because these reports can be customized. You can customize them to be run for specific mailboxes. You can customize them to be run for specific servers. And since you are doing this for the customer facing teams alone, this is also a custom report. You want to track this for say your support team, your customer support team. So this report is going to be very important. This is just a lab setup, so this problem usually occurs. We don't have data available for this particular period. But if you look at the drop-down menu, there are a number of options available. Not just yesterday, you can do it for today, which, as I mentioned, email traffic is real time in Exchange Reporter Plus. So you can do this for today. You can view information about the last 7 days, the last week, and so on. Let's go for the last 30 days. So yeah, this is the report. So at first, it shows me the email address of the agent. It shows me the total item count, as in the total items, the total tickets that this particular agent has. You can see on how many tickets he actually performed the action. So if you look at this particular person, Bentley Beagle, let me highlight the first row for you. So this this unfortunately named person, Bentley Beagle, has 2 tickets in his mailbox, and he performed an action, that is, he replied to one particular email. Pending tickets, he did not reply to another email. His average response time is 1 day, 21 hours, 42 minutes and 9 seconds. How accurate? It does not get more accurate than this. So not only this is not the only information that you have available. You can drill down this report. As you can see, for Mr. Bentley Beagle, the total item count is highlighted. So let me click on that, the highlighted portion, in order to drill down this particular report. So we are seeing the drill down information for all the tickets that Mr. Bentley Beagle has. So as you can see, this particular customer facing employee in our lab environment here, he has received an email from these 2 customers. They're actually one and the same, but yeah, anyway. So he's received 2 emails. You can see the subject of these emails. You can see when he received these emails. So as you can see from here, this was the first email. So at first he received an email from this customer to which he replied in 2 days, which is wrong. It depends on your SLA. So we need him to reply immediately. Anyway, you can see when he received the email, you can see when he replied to the email, and you can see how long he took in order to reply to the email. So you can see the date and the time at which he replied and the time period it took for him to receive the email and respond to the email. But if you look at the second ticket, he received the email today actually, and he hasn't responded yet. So what does Exchange Reporter Plus do? It puts a dash here and it tells you that he hasn't responded yet. It does not get easier than this. So I'm sure you can see why exactly I was very specific about this being the most important task of the day, because these are all important information. When you face customers in your organization, you need to be on track. You need to be very specific. You need to reply to your emails immediately. So email response SLAs are actually a thing. Many of our customers, many of our important customers, we actually have customers from finance and banking and governments, and they all have found this to be very useful, because if you mention that you have an email response SLA, you need to stick to it. So this is why you need to use the email response email response time report of Exchange Reporter Plus in order to adhere to your email response SLAs. This way you can ensure that customer experience and satisfaction is A grade, top notch in your organization. And that's it. Let's move on to the last task for the day. This session will be ending in another 5 minutes, give or take. And the very last task of today's session is going to be about internet users. So your organization, it could be a small or a large business organization, and you definitely have some plans and policies in place in order to monitor internet traffic. We all know that every organization, be it small or large, has a policy that helps administrators monitor the internet traffic. So, and why do you need this? This actually acts as a protective layer. It helps you safeguard all the critical business information in your organization. This is very important because you may need to keep an eye on users who send messages to external domains. And when I say external domains, this could be a competitor, or this could just be them emailing their personal email address or so on. But obviously, you don't want the employees to be abusing the resources in your organization and contacting the external domains. So this is one important point. When you want to track if employees in your organization are contacting external email domains, you can use this particular report. As in, we have a whole set of reports available under Exchange Reporter Plus, and this is how you can keep an eye on internet traffic. Let me switch to the product screen. The category is once again email traffic, and the subcategory is this: traffic from or to internet by a user. And what does this category do? It helps you track the traffic for emails that were sent to external domains. If you look at the first 4 reports, they're similar to the mailbox traffic reports that we saw in the beginning of this session. But the only catch is that these are for external emails, for external emails that were sent to other external domains. So it shows you the number of mails that were sent by a user. It shows you the size of mails that were sent by a user. It shows you the number of mails received and the size of mails received by any particular user. So let's just look at one particular report in order to get an idea about how exactly this works. So if you have noticed, this is about individual users. So you need to use this select button right here in order to select one particular user and see if they have contacted any external domains. So let me select one particular user from right here. Click OK, and we can check if this person has sent any emails to any external email addresses. So this person hasn't. Hold on. No, he has actually. So you can see the sender's email address, you can see the external domain name, and you can see the number of messages that this particular user sent. So that's how these reports work. You can use any of these reports in order to keep an eye on your users contacting external email domains. And that's not all. We have 2 other reports. We have one called number of mails sent to a specific domain by a given user, or you can also track the mails that were received from a specific domain by a given user. So let's look at the very first report. This is the last report that we are going to look at today, and that's it. We will be done in another minute or so. So you can, this particular report allows you to select the user. It also allows you to select the external domain. So if you think a guy named Joe in your organization is contacting an external email domain, and if you have an idea about the external email domain, you just need to use this report. So you need to select Joe for the first option. And if you know what the external domain is, say it's abc.com, you need to select abc.com under external domain. So let me quickly show you how you can do this using this report. So let's select one particular user. Let's say Arundhati or Arundhati. So I'm just doing this in random. We don't actually know if these people were contacting external domains. So let's put gmail.com, and that's it. Last 30 days or yep. So this person hasn't contacted any external domain. So, but I'm sure you get the picture. You just select the user and they would have contacted an external domain. And this report is going to list it out for you. Yep. So since this is just a lab setup, it doesn't have information about this at this particular time, but I'm sure you get the picture. In your organization, you just need to select the username here, and you need to select the external domain. And if they have contacted any external domain, it's going to be listed out here. It's going to show you the name of the mailbox. It's going to show you the subject of the message. It's going to show you information about the message, who sent it, who received it, which obviously you're going to know, and so on. The size of the message and everything is going to be displayed here. So that's it. So this is how you track internet traffic in your organization using Exchange Reporter Plus. So we've spent a very long time today discussing all the topics, and let's have a quick recap about what exactly we saw. We saw how you can track OWA logons and track the reasons for logon failure. We saw how you can list out all the ActiveSync enabled mobile devices in your environment. We saw how you can find out the stale ActiveSync enabled mobile devices in your organization. We saw how you can find out the top email users based on the number and the size of messages that they sent and they received using this product. You can report on the reasons for email delivery failure. So you get reports on messages that were not delivered. You get reports on messages that were not delivered along with the reasons for the failure of email delivery. You get messages that help you, you get reports that help you compare the messages that were delivered with the messages that were not delivered in your organization. And then we saw the most important task of all. We saw how you can monitor or how you can keep an eye on the email response time of the customer facing teams in your organization. And finally, we saw how you can track the top internet traffic using Exchange Reporter Plus, how you can see if the users in your organization are contacting external email domains. If you joined a little late in today's workshop, you do not have to worry. A recording of this particular workshop will be up on YouTube by next week. So we'll keep you posted and you can take a look at the recording so that a lot of things were discussed in today's workshop. So you just need to take a look at the recording in order to figure out exactly how you wish to perform tasks. And before I sign out, let me tell you about the next workshop. It is going to be the last workshop of this workshop series. It's the final workshop. So it's going to be held on the 17th of May, which is also a Wednesday, and it will be held at the same time as today. So we will be wrapping up this series with a look into how you can use this product in order to report on distribution lists. We will be seeing how you can report on your content, message content. So if you wish to locate messages in your organization based on keywords that are present in their content, you can do so using Exchange Reporter Plus. So keywords present in the content and how you can locate messages. That's something we will be looking at. And then we will be looking at reports about room mailbox. So if you wish to find out information about the usage of room mailboxes in your organization, we have a report about that, and we will be looking at it next week. And finally, another very important part of next week's workshop is going to be Office 365. So if you have a hybrid environment, please make sure that you attend next week's workshop, because we have some set of reports available on Office 365, and we will be discussing this in next week's workshop, which will be held on Wednesday, same time as today, which is the 17th of May, and everything. So I will be looking forward to seeing you guys there. I hope you found today's workshop useful. I hope in some way it helps you in administrating your Exchange environment in an efficient manner. And in a while, you will also be receiving a feedback form. And it would be very helpful to us here at Manage Engine if you could give us some feedback, if you could tell us how exactly we can improve this experience for you and how we can improve this experience for other attendees such as yourself. And if you have any requests, if you want us to cover any particular topic in the next workshop, you can also list that out in the feedback form. So we are waiting for your comments on today's workshop. So don't forget to attend next week's workshop, which is also going to be next on a Wednesday, same time as today. Until then, thank you and goodbye. I hope you have a great day today.